Okay, the recording has started. Thank you so much for all of you joining our informational session today. This is October 18th, and this is the second of three Q&A informational sessions for San Jose State University's School of Social Work MSW program. So on behalf of San Jose State University, our College of Health and Human Sciences, and our School of Social Work, welcome. Thank you so much. For those of you who are joining us live synchronously, and then also for those of you who are going to be viewing this recording. You'll be noticing that I might be turning my head from here to here. It's because I'm looking at the camera, but I'm also like looking at some of my notes here. And so I hope that's not too distracting. What we are going to do is I'm going to ask my faculty colleagues to also introduce themselves so that you'll know who are going to be the co-facilitators for tonight's session. And then, as I mentioned, we will be using the chat. So if you want to type in a question as we go along, I'll also be asking you to respond to some icebreaker questions in a moment. And then also we'll be using raising hands as well as unmuting as we go through the series of Q&A. I will explain the logistics in a little bit more. But before we move forward, I would like my colleagues to introduce themselves, and I will call them out, and so that they can do that one at a time. So Dr. Sen, could you please start?
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Shoma Sen. I am a faculty member here. I'm a professor who teaches primarily in the MSW program, but I'm also currently serving as the director of the graduate program. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. May I have Dr. Chavez-Bui go next, please?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dr. Jennifer Chavez-Bui, and I am the Assistant Director of Field Education, as well as the BASW Field Education Coordinator. It's very nice to see you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And then Dr. Thomas, would you go next, please? Oh, Dr. Thomas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Thomas. I'm the school coordinator, the undergraduate and graduate advisor. And thank you for participating in this session.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and I'm Dr. Peter Allen Lee. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the director of the School of Social Work here, also a faculty member, and welcome. Thank you for spending your time with us. So what we're going to be doing as our icebreaker, and as I mentioned, we do icebreakers. Well, actually, I like to do icebreakers. Not all of my colleagues like to do icebreakers, but it's because we would like to know who's in the room, get to know a little bit about the audience and a little bit about your interests. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to be going through 5 icebreaker questions one at a time. And if you could respond in the chat, that would be great. And then we get to know a little bit about who you are. Okay. So the first one is I'm connecting from, and then you can type in where you're connecting from. And just from the different times we've been doing this, especially now that we have an online program, we have also international students sometimes coming to our on-campus program. So just kind of curious about like, I'm connecting from, and please just type in where you're connecting from, okay? So a couple from, oh, San Jose, so far, oh my goodness. Okay, Santa Cruz, Burbank, some from SoCal,
Los Angeles.
Pleasant Hill, Sunnyvale, Salinas, home, San Jose home, okay. Pittsburgh. Okay, I'm assuming that's Pittsburgh, California. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, maybe. Okay, Anaheim. Thank you. Okay, so as you're typing that in, we just want to give you a little bit of information that because we have an on-campus and an online program, we have most of our on-campus folks commuting anywhere from the Bay Area, but at the same time, 70% of our online students are also in the Bay Area just because they're thinking about the mode of education delivery is what fits their needs, either their work schedule or their need to be in a particular location. But the other folks that are in our online program and that percentage that are out of the Bay Area is growing. So we have folks as far south as San Diego and then as far north as like Redding, Humboldt area. And then, of course, we have folks in the Central Valley and also east in that way. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay. The second question is a rating question. And the question is, please rate your well-being on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is low and 5 is high. Okay. And we just want to recognize that there's a lot going on in the world, may also be experiencing some personal challenges as well as other things that are happening. And so we just want to recognize that there's still a lot of struggles out there, and it's just all part of what life is. So please rate your well-being from 1 to 5, 1 being low and 5 being high. Okay. So I see some answers in there, a lot of 3s and 4s, a couple of 2s, 3.5, some decimals in there. Okay. So what we would like to share with you is that if you are a person that is scoring yourself lower than what you're hoping is your well-being, we would encourage you to make sure that you rely on your support system, and of course, as needed, to access what type of services or help that you would need. We all have situations in which we need assistance or support or encouragement, and just want to make sure that if you're in a situation where your well-being is really suffering, everybody needs help at some point. And so we just want to make sure that we recognize that it is a challenging time. Now, if you're scoring high, like the 5s, come help us, okay? Because we need your enthusiasm and your well-being to keep us going. So wherever you are in that, I hope you have some strategies to take care of yourself as well. Okay, thank you. The next one is also a rating question. And what we would like you to please rate is, on a scale of 1 to 5, your interest in social work. So 1 being low interest in social work and 5 being high. So what would you rate your interest in social work from 1 to 5, 1 being low and 5 being high? Okay, everybody's typing in like a 4 or a 5. Oh, a 10. Oh, okay, there we go. And then some decimal points in there. Just want to thank you so much for answering these questions. Now, we're assuming that if you know about social work and you're investigating our social work program as well as others, that you would rate pretty high. If you're rating it pretty low, maybe you're got our Zoom connection mixed up or something like that, and you're looking for a different, but maybe some of you are just checking out whether social work is the right career choice or the right profession for you. But thank you for being able to rate your interest in social work. We appreciate that. Okay, 4th question, and then after that, only one more. What kind of social work are you interested in? Okay, what kind of social work are you interested in? If you had reviewed our videos, you would know that we are advertising ourselves as an advanced generalist program. It doesn't mean that we don't offer macro or clinical or other types of experiences, but we are officially advertising ourselves as advanced generalist. So we try to provide a wide variety of experiences in our internships, as well as the generalist as well as specialized coursework, so that it would be one of those opportunities for you to get exposed to multiple areas of social work in there. Okay, so we noticed that there's a lot of LCSW answers, so a lot of clinical answers, but also working with children and families, working with older adults, working with elderly, international social work, mental health. Just trying to skim through a little bit about your education in there. So thank you. We will definitely help answer questions about. One of the things, if you had viewed the video, is goodness of fit with our program. We don't think that there is such thing as the best program, the best social work program. We think that we're going for goodness of fit in terms of whether a particular program will be able to offer you the curriculum and the opportunities that you're looking for. Thank you so much. Okay, and then the last question is really trying to be mindful and really have an attitude of thankfulness in this way. So the last question is, what is one thing that you are grateful for? What is one thing that you're grateful for? And if you could just type that into the chat. Family, all in caps. There you go. Yep, family, 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 mom. Yep, supportive family. Health, thank you. Mental health. I think I saw doggy in there, right? Yeah, pets. Well, the animals are our family too. Yeah. Musical talent. Yes, there is no area that I have found where social work could not be related. Okay. So for those of you who have an artistic background, a music background, a sports background, or whatever background, think about how to integrate your interest in those things with your professional interest in social work. Um, Looking forward to a new day and learning from mistakes. Thank you. That overall health, creativity, a lot of family in there. Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So what we're going to do from this point in the format of this meeting is that we're making an assumption that you have viewed the informational meeting slides and also listened to the recording before you came to this meeting. Sorry, as I talk a lot, I have a dry throat, and so you might see me take a swig of water here. So what we're going to do is we would like you to either type your question into the chat or to raise your hand using the Zoom functions. And we're going to be answering questions and treating this session as a flip type of format. What that means is your preparation happened first, and then the Q&A happens during this session. So this is not going to be a presentation. How we're going to also manage the questions is we would like to do it thematically. So for example, if somebody starts off with a question about, could you please explain a little bit more about the types of field internship opportunities available and how the selection of those internships occurs, then we will answer that question and then try to answer all those questions that are related to that question, like internships, agencies, locations, those types of things. And then after we do that, we're going to move on to another question and then do that thematically. Okay. Now we realize that sometimes folks can't stay for the entire time, or they're worried about that their question might not be relevant or that they want to ask it on the side. So what we can do is, as the session is coming to a close, we will have an official ending, turn off the recording, and some of us will be able to stay behind for a few minutes to be able to answer any of those questions. My colleagues are also going to be monitoring the chat so that we will be able to integrate our discussion and the questions and answers using what's in the chat as well. Okay. So with that in mind, what we would like to do is start. So if you would now raise your hand or unmute yourself or type it into the chat, and then let's start with our first question. Okay.
Peter, we have 2 questions in the chat. I'm seeing 3 now.
Okay, and let's do those first, and then hopefully folks will have some energy or something to want to raise their hand. Okay. So, Dr. Bowie, which question should I start with?
The first question is, how long until the SJ portal application opens?
Good, thank you for that. Okay, so what's happening is that Cal State Apply, remember that there are 2 applications that you have to complete for a full application part of our process. The first one is Cal State Apply, and Cal State Apply is open. So please start with that one. Because you're gonna need the SJSU ID number for you to use to complete your MSW application anyway. And once you do your Cal State Apply, we have your contact information so that if the MSW specific application is delayed longer than we want it to be delayed, we can communicate with you to prepare, for example, giving you information about the question prompts for the personal statement, getting some of your other information and documents in order so that when the MSW portal does open for that second part of the application process, you'll be prepared, okay? So we are working with the vendor that manages our MSW application. We're hoping to launch that in a couple of days or as soon as possible. But out of transparency, we want to just make sure that we have all of those systems in place so that when we open it, it will reduce the number of problems and errors that could occur either on the back end side on the programming or also confusion on the front end side on the user side. So thank you so much for your patience. We're hoping that it's going to be soon. I cannot give you an exact date, but we would like to just recommend, again, start with Cal State Apply. We have your contact information. Our admissions team will be communicating with you about how you can do some work ahead of time so that when the portal does open, then you'll be ready to put in your information in a more facilitated manner, okay? Dr. Bowie, are there follow-up questions along the same theme?
It was just about when the MSW specific application was going to open.
Okay. Oh, if there is a significant delay on the opening of the MSW application, that portion, we will be discussing with the university whether we can give an extension to the MSW application portion. We do not plan to have an extension for the Cal State Apply because Cal State Apply is already up and running. So Cal State Apply will definitely be due December 1st. If you're thinking about like, is there going to be an extension for the MSW part of the application, we will give folks update, but please start with Cal State Apply. Dr. Bowie, is that good?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to, is it Viri?
Hi, it's Viridiana. You can call me Viri for short. I thought the question was answered though in the chat, but I just want to follow up. It's regarding the writing sample. So I have been looking online and from my research is that a typical writing sample has to be like a research essay, but I didn't do research personally in college. Is there a limit to like how long does it have to be, or can I get any pointers as to like what is expected of that writing sample?
Okay, thank you for that question. And my colleagues will also chime in with other information as needed. So remember that there's a difference between the writing sample and then the personal statement. So the personal statement will have specific instructions and prompts that you do have to address. The writing sample is supposed to be the applicant's opportunity to demonstrate their best writing. And so that does not have to be a research paper. It is common that people will send in an academic paper, but we have also seen other examples of writing as long as they believe that it is an example of their best forms of writing. So we've had folks turn in articles that they've written for a newsletter, a technical report, some other type of essay or freestyle writing that they've done in some other part of an academic program or even a non-academic program. So the best guide that we can give you is whatever you submit as your writing sample, you want it to be reflective of your best ability to write. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Colleagues, am I on point on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to Juan, and then we'll take another chat question. Juan, please.
Hi, thank you for answering or selecting me. I'm interested in the advanced standing MSW program. There's some logistics that I want to find out more that I can't find on the website. I know that the website states that it starts in the summer. But is it possible to get like the month, the start date of when that would be for the advanced standing program?
So what will happen is advanced standing, for those who are admitted into that part of the program, the curriculum does start in summer, so summer bridge, and the classes historically have started as early as the first week of June, so like June 1, June 2, around there. And the reason why is because the summer session starts that early, and you're required to then take 3 courses and complete them in the summer, which will be the bridge to then enter into the final year of the curriculum. Is that what you mean, Juan?
Yeah. And how long is that bridge? Is there like a break in between the bridge and the fall classes, or is it go straight into the fall?
There's a very, very short break. And actually, like if we're talking about the classes time from the end of summer to the beginning of the fall semester, it's not more than about a week. However, we also have orientation for new students. And so if we're thinking about like you actually have time to get away, like either like a trip or some type of vacation or other type of personal time, I would say that there's very limited time in between there. I mean, like probably can get away from like maybe like a like even when the summer bridge courses are occurring, the classes themselves are once a week, so it's not like packed in that way. But folks have not been able to go on like an extended trip or anything during that time, during bridge and the transition to the regular semester.
Got it. And a follow-up question about the advanced standing program is that I know that there's a lot of internships because you enter as a second year MSW. Right now, I'm a senior at SF State in the BASW program, and so I know that some of the internships have deadlines, right? So you have to apply to the internship by like February or March, etc. And is it possible to apply to those internships that have deadlines um, before before actually starting the advanced standing program?
It is not possible to officially interview with those agencies. And also sometimes the admissions decisions do not come out until the mid part of spring. So we usually say admissions decisions can come anytime between the beginning of February and as late as the end of May.
Okay.
So what will happen for advanced standing students is that they will be invited to field fair. And for advanced standing students, as well as other incoming MSW students, your field fair will be either towards the end of May or the beginning of June. There is no internship that would start during the summer. So one of the ways that folks would have to make a decision on what they want to do is that if they're thinking that their internship opportunities will be somewhat limited, then you might have to think like, okay, do I want to go to advanced standing at San Jose State or any other advanced standing program? Most advanced standing programs that we're familiar with will have a similar circumstance about summer bridge and then the timing of their internship. So we will still work with you to get an internship, but you might not necessarily get your first choice, in that way. Yeah.
Right. I'm interested in the integrative behavioral health internship, right? And I know that for that there's a lot of deadlines, right? For the stipend and all of that. So is that not a possibility then to be able to be an advanced standing student and also do the IBH stipend program?
So from what we have been trying to do is that advanced standing students would be eligible for almost all of our stipend programs. So IBH, Adult Protective Services, Public Behavioral Health, but they would not, advanced standing students would not be eligible for Title IV e-child welfare or for PPSC, at least not in our program, in our advanced standing program. So what would happen is that when you do fill out the MSW specific application, you'll actually see checkboxes in which you can indicate which areas of specialization and stipend programs you would be interested in. And so as we go through the review process, and then we know that, this person is a good candidate or this person looks likely that we will offer admission, then we can try to bridge the communication so that those folks would be known to our training and stipend coordinators so that there can be at least some preparatory work about that. So Juan, if you are in the situation where you are admitted or you think that you're going to be wanting to prioritize San Jose State, we can continue to have the conversation, especially to include those project coordinators. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Advanced standing information, for those of you also interested in advanced standing, please review the material that is on our website. And just to make sure, advanced standing is only available for those who have a bachelor's of social work from an accredited program, of which Juan, coming from San Francisco State, is accredited. I think every program in the state that you would be attending, you should be coming from an accredited program. If you don't have that bachelor's degree in social work, you're not eligible for advanced standing. And you can look at the other criteria as well. Is anybody else asking questions about advanced standing before we move on to another theme?
I don't see any specific advanced standing question, but there are some specific questions around admission application. Should I bring them to you now, or how do you want to do that?
Why don't we take a chat question and then I'll go back to the raise hand. So choose one, Dr. Sen.
Yeah. Are we able to go back whenever we would like to on the MSW application once we start?
When you mean go back, does that mean like make corrections?
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm assuming. That's what it meant.
Okay, so when the MSW application opens, then what will happen is that there is a place where you do like the worksheets and submit certain things. You can change and edit those up until you actually click the submit button. Dr. Thomas, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Dr. Lee.
Yeah. So for example, if you type in some experiences that, oh, I got the agency name wrong, or oh, I forgot to add that particular part, or you need to change who is a recommender because they're not responding to you or something like that. You can change those aspects, but only up until you click the submit button. Okay. Dr. Sen, does that help? Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to take any more? There's a cluster of questions around application. Do you want to take those, or how do you want to do that?
Are they along the same theme?
Similar. It's where can we find personal statement or writing samples to prepare us for MSW portal when it opens?
Okay, so what will happen is that the school will be able to give you the prompts ahead of time for the personal statement. I mean, they're not really secret prompts or anything. We're relying on the portal to be able to do that. But Dr. Thomas, the prompts will be made available to those that we have contact information for.
Yes, so I've sent out a couple of emails today to all the applicants who've started their applications on CalState Apply with the prompts. But the prompts are also available on our admissions page on the website.
Okay.
Yep.
You can go there and review it. It's available. And if you started a CalState application, you should have got an email from me today with the prompts. Yeah.
So if I'm also interpreting some of the questions about where can we find samples or examples, we do not give examples. We definitely will tell you the prompts, but we would not give you examples of a personal statement or examples of a writing sample. So our best advice, couple of things. One is that Dr. Thomas has done a separate video about tips about how to write a personal statement. You can also talk with folks that you might know who are in our program or who have graduated from our program, and you can ask them about what they have done. And we would also advise that even though we definitely want you to do your own work and it's your own thoughts, and we even have a artificial intelligence statement that is part of our application, in that the use of AI to generate your work is technically plagiarism. It's not your original work, but it doesn't mean that you can't get support. So need somebody to read it over, make sure your grammar and your spelling are there, being able to generate and reflect ideas. All of that is okay, as long as what you submit is originally your own in that fashion. Okay. So let's go to the hand raise, and then let's go back to what's in the chat a little bit later. So Cynthia, thank you for your patience. What's your question?
Yeah, so my question is more related to internship or field placements. I currently work at a partial hospitalization clinic as a behavioral specialist for OCD and anxiety. So I was wondering if this job, especially if I were to join the online MSW program, would this count or be eligible towards those hours?
May I reflect that back to you and see if this is what you're asking? So if you're asking whether or not your current job or your current position can serve as an internship site, or are you asking that what you're already doing already counts for internship hours?
I would ask if it already counts, or would it be eligible for even like internship or field placement?
Okay, we would not count hours that you have already done before being admitted to an MSW program.
Right.
Okay, so anything that we count as internship hours has to be through starting our official MSW program and the internship arrangement. Okay, so however, your experience would definitely be advantageous when you apply, because if you have oodles of experience in that regard, that's going to help you in terms of your ranking of your application, right? So that's still so what will happen is that for those of you, we have very many questions and inquiries about, can I use my current employment, especially if I'm working in a social service agency or a social work related job, as my internship placement? And I'm going to ask Dr. Bowie to chime in a moment. The current answer that we have for that, and we've been using it pretty standard historically, is that first of all, internship placements must have an official contract with the school. So what that means is the agency has to be vetted to make sure that there is proper social work experiences available in order to fulfill the competencies and experiences mandated by our accrediting body. You also have to make sure that there is a proper supervisor at the agency, which means that it's an MSW. It cannot be an LMFT. It cannot be a psychologist. It doesn't mean that those people can't support the supervision, but your direct supervisor in the internship site has to be a social worker with an MSW. And then you can petition to use your work site for only 1 out of your 2 years of internship in the program. So we just want to make sure the reason why we do that is because we want our students to have a variety of experiences as an advanced generalist program so that somebody doesn't become so specialized or so siloed that they don't appreciate what the other areas of social work appreciate, which will also enhance your education and your training. Dr. Bui, do I have that correct?
Yes. And I just want to add, because I was starting to write it in the chat, but I was waiting to address it. You know, we, like Dr. Lee said, we have a pretty extensive petition process because we want to just be really clear that your role as an intern is very different than your role as an employee. And so that would have to be approved by the field office in order for you to do that. And so it would, like I put in the chat, making sure that your supervisor is not, as an employee, is different than your supervisor as an intern. The tasks that you do, so if you're working at your agency with, say, children and families, that the task that you do as an intern is going to look, we want it to look different. Just like Dr. Lee said, we just want to make sure that this is the time where you learn, and we want you to have as much, versatile experience as possible, which is why our process is pretty extensive. Our petition process is pretty extensive.
Cynthia, does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Okay. I'm going to try, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please correct me. So Kudrut, is that how you pronounce your name?
That was pretty close. It's Kudra.
Kodrut? Okay, thank you. What's your question, please?
Sure. It also has to do with internships. How much of a say does a student have in their internship placements? I do understand you're a generalist program and you want us to get, have internships in probably different areas, but at least 1 out of the 2 or 3 internships that we have, are we able to say, hey, I'm really interested in going into this field. Could I get an internship placement in this area?
Good question. So basically what happens in our model is it's a collaborative process amongst the school, the student, and the agencies, okay? So the students that we have are not responsible for doing the internship search alone, and the school does not determine everything about internships either, okay? So let's assume that the baseline is the agencies are all meeting minimum requirements. In other words, they have an active contract with the university, provide the proper supervision, and provide the appropriate learning experiences, right? So then what happens is that we have 2 field fairs a year for incoming MSW students. For example, you all who are applying and getting ready for entry, your field fair will be at the end of May or the beginning of June, in which the agencies will be actually visiting physically campus. And our field fairs are actually fairly large recently. So like between 80 to 100 agencies. And usually they're like Bay Area local. And students would visit. You're required to come to field fair and visit, and you would actually meet the agency representatives. So then the student comes up with a list of prospective agencies that they say, oh, I've met these folks. It looks like I'm interested in this one. And then the agencies are also noting which students that they think would match well. Then we ask the students to do a minimum number of interviews with the matching. And then there's an agreement, like, hey, the agency would say, hey, we're interested in this student. Student says, hey, I'm interested in that agency. And then there's a match, in that way. There's not always a 100% match, first choice, second choice, that type of thing. But that's an example of the collaborative process. For those of you who are interested in our online MSW program, online hybrid MSW program, just a reminder, online hybrid is named that because the traditional classes are all online in the evening, but internships are in person, hence the hybrid portion. There is a virtual field fair, in which the agencies, you would be told ahead of time where to find information on the agencies that are available. And we try to have something geographically local to you in the online program. We can't guarantee that there will be a minimal length of commute, but we try our best in that way. And then the matching process happens the same way. It's just that the appointments in which you meet the agencies is all done virtually. If you're geographically local enough to come to the in-person field fair, online students are always welcome to come to the in-person stuff. But if you can't come to that, there is a virtual field fair. Okay. Hudrat, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you so much. I haven't heard of, honestly, any other universities that I'm checking out have a field fair, so that's really exciting to hear.
Okay, good. Oh, and I mentioned there's 2 field fairs. So once you're in the program, when foundation year students are getting ready for the specialized year or the final year of internship, your internship fair again occurs, but it's in January. So then you're in your first year or you're in your first year of internship, then the follow-up internship fair is to prepare for the final year of internship. So May, June for incoming, and then January once you're in the program to prepare for the final year. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other thematic questions about internship? Should we handle those first?
Yeah.
Hmm?
It's a similar question. I think you answered it, but I'm not sure. Will we be able to see what internship options are offered before getting into the program?
Dr. Bowie, I think the list is made available to current students, but is the list made available to applicants?
I don't believe so. I think it's just internal with current students.
Yeah, yeah. But what we can tell you though is that, well, I don't know how we're trying to be as transparent and helpful as possible. I don't know how helpful this will be, but we'll let you know that as we've been growing our on-campus and online program, we have over 500, right? Over 500
Yes.
partner agencies. And so we actually have more agencies than we have students in internship at one time. And remember, some agencies actually take multiple number of students. So again, of course, since we're geographically located in Santa Clara County, San Jose, San Francisco Bay Area, a vast majority of those agencies are within this geographic area. However, as our online program and our partnerships have been growing, the number of internship placements across the state has also been growing steadily. Is that fair, Dr. Bowie?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other? Yeah.
Internship question. Am I able to complete additional hours on the weekend to complete my hours sooner?
Okay, good question. So how we are handling those types of questions that you may have remembered from the video presentation is that we want to make sure that students expect that their internship hours will be in traditional agency business hours, Monday through Friday, like 8 to 5, 8 to 6, something like that. Now that doesn't mean we are well aware that there are some agencies that open on the weekends and open in the evenings, but the reason why we don't want to tell students to expect that they can get those customizable hours is because we want to make sure that the supervisors that are at the agencies are supervising students and when they're available. So for example, we sometimes have students that would say, but the agency is open on the weekends. How come I can't do agency internship on the weekends? Then we would have to say, well, is your supervisor available on the weekends? And most times they're not. Or if the experiences on the weekends are not as robust as the experiences that you would get during the normal agency business hours. So it doesn't mean that there are never exceptions, but we don't want applicants to be misled in thinking that we can customize the internship hours. So the best answer we can give you now is please do not count on having customizable or specialized hours in the evening or the weekend, because we don't want you to come expecting that and then be disappointed. So please plan ahead. We know that that seems very restrictive, but again, we're just trying to be transparent and give you some what our expectations and what you have too, so that when you match with us, best fit type of thing, that you understand what you're getting yourself into.
I also want to add, Dr. Lee, if you don't mind,
Yes.
in regards to the field hours,
Mhm.
there is a minimum of hours, but there's not a maximum. So, we have a field calendar that we also follow. So if you finish your hours early, we have to go by our field calendar as far as, our end dates, our start dates, because we make these partnerships with our agencies. So if you do more hours in a semester, that's great, but it doesn't mean you get to end early. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Dr. Lee, is there anything you want to add about that? I just wanted to say that because I know some students think they could be done a little early.
Yeah, you have to make sure, because remember, we're serving clients. It's not just your educational experience, but it's also making sure that the agency has your service and learning opportunities from beginning to end. So even if somebody's like, well, I can work 80 hours a week or internship 80 hours a week, so I'll be done in 1 month, can't happen that way because we have to serve the clients. There was something else I wanted to say about that. Oh, so there was the question about internship earlier is about when you're looking for agencies and your match, some agencies will actually ask, are you available to do, let's say, 3 days of internship, or even go to do certain things that are beyond the minimum of what Dr. Bowie is saying. And some students want to do that because those agencies are very coveted. For example, a hospital, right? Or a county agency, or a very specialized clinic or something like that. And those clinics might have higher expectations than what is minimum, but we want to make sure that they're transparent with the student about what those are, so that if the student decides that, okay, that's what I want to do, you're not misled later to saying like, hey, how come I'm doing like, 200 hours more than everybody else is doing? The agency needs to be transparent about that. And then, of course, you need to agree if you want that type of experience. So
This 1,200 hours, right? There was a question about the number of hours. Is the 1,200 hours in the entire program?
in the entire program. So what happens is that, again, our official accreditation report that we give to Council of Social Work Education is that we have 1,200 hours. However, during COVID, it has been reduced to, I believe, 1,050. But we want to be transparent. The reduction of field hours that you might have heard from either alum or current students is only because we're still under the current temporary reduction. So that temporary reduction may be removed. And so we don't want you thinking you're coming in for 1,050. And that's why we say 1,200 on the recording and on the information, because on the books, we're still officially 1,200. Okay. May I move on?
So there is a question, it's a good one, because we're on the Cal State Apply. We don't have to submit a personal statement or a writing sample. Dr. Do you want to field that? Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. On Cal State Apply, you will see a spot that asks for a personal statement and even, I think, recommendations or what have you. You do not need to do that for Cal State Apply. And the reason why is because our MSW specific application is intended to collect that information. However, if you are applying to multiple CSU, California State University System social work programs, you need to make sure you follow their instructions. So let's say CSU, I'm making up a name, okay? CSU Shangri-La does not have a separate MSW application and they rely only on Cal State Apply. They might ask you to fill out the personal statement portion in Cal State Apply because they don't have a secondary application process. Okay, so if you apply to San Jose State, you do not need to do the Cal State Apply personal statement or the recommendations, but you do need to do it in the MSW portion when we release that, have that up and running. Okay. Okay, let's go to Ivan, please.
Hi, I do have a question. So I've been out of school for about 5 years now, but I've been working in the field of social work. I actually work at a crisis residential unit. One of the assistant directors for that program now. But I'm just wondering, would that affect my application? I seen a couple of schools that have like completing certain class like biology, human biology within 4 to 5 years, and also the statistic class between 4 to 5 years. do you guys require that as well? I couldn't find it anywhere on the website necessarily, but I was just wondering.
Okay. So let me reflect that back to you also, Ivan. Are you worried about your length of time since graduation will affect your application is one part of your question? And then the other part of your
Yes.
question is whether or not you are missing some prerequisites to be admitted into the MSW program. Is that what you're asking as well?
Yes.
Okay, so two parts, right? So we have a very diverse student body, and we're talking about all situations, all types of elements of culture, and that's not restricted to race, ethnicity. We have students as young as those coming straight out of undergraduate at an early age. I think our youngest students are like in their like early 20s, mid 20s, but we also have several students coming back either because of circumstances or second career. We have students in their 40s and their 50s. The oldest student I've ever had in one of my classes was 65, 66 years old because they were energetic and they were ready to take on something new, and they wanted to come back to school. So in that regard, there's nothing that prejudices length of time away from your undergraduate program nor age. So those things do not play into the application review process. The practical side of it is that sometimes students are a little bit anxious about, am I coming to graduate school too soon? In other words, do they have enough life experience and maturity to appreciate graduate school? Like, do they already know what they want for their career trajectory? The flip side to that also is that some folks who are a little bit older, they may feel like, oh, I don't even know what it's like to be in the classroom anymore. Or am I going to find people who are similar to me that I can relate with? And we don't bias that way either. I think different personalities will gel. We think this type of cultural mixture is actually healthy. It gives better perspective in terms of different points of view that enhance the educational process. So in that way, it's really up to the person in terms of like, are they ready? Do they think they can get back into the swing of school? You know, the habits of, you know, being in an academic program. So that's really your personal choice. In terms of the prerequisites, as long as you've graduated from an accredited undergraduate institution that is recognized by our graduate admissions program. So anybody who graduates from an undergraduate institution in this country that's accredited, that's pretty much all covered. If you're coming from an international situation or a university that's outside the United States, you'll want to consult with the Graduate Admissions and Program Evaluation Office, which is called GAPE, G-A-P-E, and they do the equivalency review and assessment about degrees that are earned outside of the United States. And then human biology is no longer a requirement for admission. And then the statistics portion is also technically not a requirement, but the undergraduate degree is a requirement in that way. So a lot of those specific classes for MSW, they're no longer in effect in that way.
Okay,
Dr. Lee,
thank you.
Yeah.
That clears a lot.
may I answer a set of questions that is asking about the experience?
Sure.
So some of the questions around experiences, you know, can I include my job? Can I include my personal experience as a foster parent? So a general feedback on that would be, as long as your experience can be framed in the context of our profession. So I'll give you an example. If you have ladled soup in a soup kitchen, that in and of itself is not considered social work. However, because of that, if you have done some community work or have supported the people that are coming through the homeless shelters, or they're unhoused and you're providing resources, that is social work. So it depends on how you frame your question, but definitely if you have retail experience and things like that, that can go on the CV on your resume, but not necessarily count towards social work experience. Am I correct on that, Dr. Lee, Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Okay.
And so anything that is paid, volunteer, or internship, again, within the scope of social work related experience is fine. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding. It's like, oh, but I haven't worked in an agency or something like that. It's paid volunteer or internship. Yeah. You want to continue on that theme, Dr. Sen?
There are some, it's not that thing, but there are questions for Dr. Thomas where people are saying that if they have applied on Cal State, they should have received an email from you. That's a clarification question, but they have not. That's what they're saying.
So sometimes there's a delay in terms of when somebody enters Cal State Apply and when we see it on the back end here. So Dr. Thomas, you can chime in on that. I think if it's not instantaneous. So if you give us or give Dr. Thomas a reasonable time frame so that she can check the accounts and then she will contact you.
Who asked that question? Who?
I will look and let you know.
And that if you can stay back after the meeting, and I can right away look and see if the email has been sent to you.
There's
So
actually
there are two emails that's being discussed here. The first one is the email I sent out from the admissions, the master's admission. But if you're referring to the Cal State ID and SGSU email, you should continuously check your My SGSU. So there are two different things we are talking about here. So stay back and we can discuss that. Whoever asked that question. Yeah. And I can retrieve that email today and check if it has gone to you.
Okay. Dr. Thomas, there's quite a few of those. So please, those who asked that question, please stay back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember, it's not instantaneous.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, okay, I started Cal State Apply. Hey, where's my reply email? Okay. It doesn't work quite that way. So it's literally the admissions team has to check who has started Cal State Apply by entering a web portal and then seeing and then downloading that information. So please be patient in that regard. And of course, if you know that you started Cal State Apply and you still have questions, then of course we will try to answer them as best as we can. So
I think Rashad has been waiting, and he also had a question in the chat, so I'll let you address him.
Okay, Rashad, please.
Thank you. For those applying for the advanced standing program, I know that it comes with a set of requirements in terms of an A- average in your social work classes, GPA average, as well as a number of work experience hours that could be volunteer, paid worker, or so forth, to enter into the advanced standing program outside of our field practicum that we did as bachelors in social work. How is the program going about verifying those numbers of hours in the field prior to acceptance?
Well, so thank you. Let me reflect that also back and then also give folks interested in advanced standing some advice. So in terms of how folks are reporting the social work experience, much of it is on an honor system. And so we would be double checking and seeing like if it's consistent with the resume as well as what you're entering in there, and then also seeing what's in the personal statement. So we don't literally call these places or anything to verify that in that regard. For advanced standing, we do expect an evaluation from the field as well as recommendations that include how well the applicant for advanced standing has accomplished field. So in that way, the criteria and the process is more involved. There's a little bit of a logistic challenge in that for those folks who are still in their bachelor's program and wanting to get into advanced standing right away, there has to be then some type of cooperation within your own university about when you finish field and when you can get those recommendations and those reports. So for example, if we know that summer bridge courses happened at the very beginning of June, but for some people, they don't even finish their internship until after June. That's problematic, right? Then we wouldn't have enough information possibly to be able to review or admit you in. And you also are not supposed to start an MSW program until your bachelor's degree is actually conferred. So for those of you who are knowing that you want to do advanced standing, but that your graduation date is after summer starts, that's going to be a logistical problem. We would take that probably case by case, and we would handle those types of questions offline. At the same time,
sorry, I thought you'd completed. I'm sorry. Go
at
ahead.
the same time, the part where we're also talking about the advanced standing portion, if you can finish your field hours and get those recommendations before the summer session starts, and we're able to evaluate in that way, then you have a better chance of getting in. The other part of what usually is asked about advanced standing is that even if a person doesn't meet all the criteria exactly, so let's say like, oh, I don't have the A or A minus in all of my social work classes. I have one that's not. Or like you're like a few hours short of what we recommend as the additional experience. What we would recommend is that you still apply for advanced standing anyway, because if you don't apply, for sure you won't get in. We just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to assess, even if folks might fall short in some of those categories, at least we get an opportunity to see what it is that where your qualifications are. We also have in the MSW program application an opportunity for you to rank choice the different programs. So what will happen is that if an advanced standing student, if an applicant is interested in advanced standing, but they really, really, really want to come to San Jose State, they might put advanced standing as their first choice, and then one of the other traditional options as second or third choice. So let's say advanced standing first choice, second choice is 2-year program on campus, third choice is the online hybrid program. So if we evaluate that this person is not ready for advanced standing, however, they would make a great candidate for one of the traditional MSW programs, we would often offer that person admission into their second or third choice option, even if we don't admit them into advanced standing. So let me pause there. Dr. Thomas, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add something about the field evaluations. So those of you who are in a BSW program and haven't yet completed their hours, you should be having at least one semester of evaluations. You can submit that, we do look at it during the review process. So I strongly recommend that you work with your field organization to get at least one semester of evaluation if you haven't yet completed your field hours, and upload that in your application.
Okay. I want to go back to Rashad first, but I also see in the chat about questions about the ranked choices. But let's go back to Rashad and then I'll answer that other question. Does that help, Rashad?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Now the ranked choices, remember that there's 2 applications, Cal State Apply and then our MSW specific one. In Cal State Apply, you will not see all of the detailed choices, and you can only choose one option for Cal State Apply, okay? So what you would want to do for Cal State Apply is choose the program option that you want as your first choice. So even though in Cal State Apply, you'll see the general session, the usual on-campus MSW program, and then you will see online program, and then you will see advanced standing on campus and advanced standing online. You only see 4 choices there, okay? So you have to only pick one because Cal State Apply only allows you to check one of those boxes. However, when you go into the MSW application, when that portal does open up, it is not just choose one, it's actually ranked choice. So in the MSW application, you can choose advanced standing first, and actually there's 2 choices. Advanced standing online program first, advanced standing on-campus program second, and then 2-year traditional program, 3-year program, what have you. And so that what happens is that if we're not able to admit you into your first choice option, we might be able to admit you into your other choice options. There are some students, like I had mentioned, or applicants, I should say, some applicants, like I mentioned, they don't care which option they get, they just really want to come here, they're going to fill out the ranked choice all the way to the end. There are some applicants where it's like, I'm only interested in advanced standing. If I can't get into advanced standing at San Jose State, I'm going to go to advanced standing somewhere else. And that's okay. We just wanted to give people an option and also let us know if they have other considerations and choices that they're open to. Okay. Juan, I think you had a question answered before, so let me go to Heather first, and then we'll come back to you. Okay. So Heather.
Hi. So I'm a current BASW student at SJSU, and my question's about the hours needed for the application. What, like, so for the amount of hours, are they looking at hours that we're doing like at our internships, or are those additional hours that we would have had?
Are you talking about advanced standing or the application?
Or is that just for advanced standing? Because I know in my cohort there's a little bit of confusion of where the hours are applicable for the application to the MSW program.
Okay, so I'll answer that, and then my colleagues will also correct me or just clarify. So the reason why we have additional hours on top of your internship experience in our Bachelor's of Social Work program is because, remember, we're talking about skipping an entire year in advanced standing. And so what we're trying to achieve here is to signal to folks that if we're going to have students skip an entire year of the MSW program, they really have to be exceptional, excellent students because of the accelerated pace in that manner. So what would happen is that you definitely can count in your hours of experience, your internship that is required for the bachelor's degree, but several students and your classmates have had previous experience in addition to the internship that they're experiencing in the bachelor's program. That's an example of what we're looking for. So for some of your classmates, they've been working in a social service agency or a nonprofit that's social work related even before they came into bachelor's program. And so we're looking for the robustness of the experience beyond the internship. Now, similar to the previous question, even if you're not sure if you fulfill all of those hours, if you're interested in advanced standing, still apply. Because if you don't apply, you won't get in for sure. But if you apply, knowing that, I hope that I fulfilled this extra or this part of the requirement, at least we can assess and then figure out whether or not we can offer you admission through advanced standing. Dr. Thomas, let me pause there for a moment. Is that an accurate description?
Yes, Dr. Lee.
Okay.
Have you finished with that description? I just want to add something more to that.
Why don't you go ahead and add?
Yeah. So work experience, we do look at for whichever program you're applying to, the options that you're applying to. For the advanced standing, we have a requirement of extra experience in a social work related interventions. Yeah. So that is the main difference. For any other master's options, we don't have that. Whatever work experience you have, you'll have record it on your application. But for advanced standing, we do ask for that 400 hours, of that your work experience. So that is the main difference. Yeah.
Dr. Lee and Dr. Thomas, may I interject and ask a clarifying question here? Like I did answer, but I wanted to clarify. So it's GAPE, right, where the transcripts go?
No. Okay. So do we have any other questions related to Cal State Apply?
There's a ton of questions about Cal State Apply.
Okay. So any questions related to Cal State Apply, you should be, I'm cutting and pasting the email here. Please reach out to them and they will respond to your questions. In case you don't hear from them, please circle back to us and we will, get in touch with them and kind of ask them like, how can we respond to this question? So if it's related to your Cal State ID, SJSU 9-digit ID, or where your transcripts have to go, or what are the deadlines for the Cal State Apply, please, ask your questions to this gradadmissions@sjsu.edu. So that is the difference. And anything related, of course, to the MSW application, that we were discussing till now, that comes to the School of Social Work. Yeah. And an important link that I'll cut and paste your webpage is related to your SGSU ID. So as soon as you start your CalState apply and get your SGSU ID, please review all of this information. So you can save it from chat. Yeah. So this is this is an important page for you to know all the information about CalState ID, SJSU ID, and who you should direct the questions to. Are there any other questions, Dr. Sen or Dr. Bowie, about CalState Apply?
Not about CalState Apply, and for some of these questions, they are good questions. So I'm also requesting students to raise their hands and ask these questions so that everyone can benefit from it, because there's a lot of like individual chatting happening, which I think people can benefit from all of that. So we don't see any, Dr. Thomas, in terms of CalState Apply question right now.
Okay. One more, general question that we always get, and this information is on the webpage on our admissions page, is where do you send your transcripts? Remember, no transcripts are sent to the School of Social Work. Yeah. All transcripts go to the GAPE office, right? And this information is there. I'm going to, again, cut and paste this for you. Make a note of this. Yeah. Yes. And all CalState application documents are, the deadline for submitting all of them is December 1st. Yeah. And here's the information on where to submit it. It's there on our webpage, and no transcripts are submitted to the MSW application portal or to the School of Social Work. They all go to CalState Apply.
Okay. Let's go to Juan. Go ahead, Juan.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that I already asked the question, but I just needed clarity on the evaluation process for our internships. Is the evaluation from our current internships, if we are in a BASW program, is because as you said, Dr. Asha, that we will have completed by then 1 semester of internships. Is that a formal document, or is that just like a letter of recommendation, or what is the evaluation process?
Dr. Bowie, you can chime in, but this is what we're looking at typically. So I am under the impression that all schools of social work have something called a learning agreement when you start your internship, and you're evaluated for what your work at your internship, and usually it's semester related for those universities that have a semester system, or quarters if they have a quarter system. So that is my understanding. So go back to your supervisor or to your field director and ask them, how do they evaluate you? There's some kind of a learning agreement. What we want to see is, if you haven't completed all the hours, at least 1 semester of your learning agreement should be submitted to the application portal, because we do look at it during the review. And you can submit the other, I think it's mostly in the senior year that you have 1 year of field work in most undergraduate programs, then submit all the evaluation, once that's available. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and we do have a learning agreement, so that's
yes, use the learning agreement, please. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Liz. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. I have just a clarification. I applied today, but unfortunately, I didn't read well the requirements for advanced standing program. And I'm a little concerned. I applied for that, but you mentioned that after that, we have an option to select other options on the master program.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure I won't get disqualified, and when I apply for the program, I will still have the option to choose other programs. Just to clarify that question, I just kind of anxious because I applied for that specifically, and I do have a master and a bachelor, but it's not social work. So
okay, you would not be disqualified, so don't worry about that part. Just be very careful that when the MSW application portal does open, you can rank choice what it is, those options. Sometimes what will happen is that if we see a mismatch between what somebody checked off in the CalState apply and what they checked off in the MSW application, we will try to rectify that by communicating with the applicant if we're going to plan to admit them, so that we make sure that when we do admit them, they're admitted into the right choice or the choice that we can offer. So
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
so you don't have to worry about that part. Okay.
Thank you.
But try to not make those mistakes, because that can take as much as possible when you do your applications.
Yeah. Okay. Chigozi, is that how we pronounce your name?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, please, what's your question? Yeah.
Yes, my question is, I know the GPA, mentioned in the Cal State Apply and on the MSW is 2.5 or above. So if by any distance, someone's GPA is short of that, maybe like a 2.48 or 2.49. So is there like any remedy or maybe any chance whereby the person can still get admission?
Okay, thank you. So this situation happens from time to time. So what would happen is, our recommendation is that if you're interested in coming to our program, that you would still apply. Now, we do want to be transparent, is that when the prerequisites for application are not met, it is much more difficult to be admitted, but it's not impossible. It's really depending on how persistent and how you follow particular procedures in what it is that you want to do. So in your particular case, and how we would broaden that to other people who might be in that situation, is that you would apply, and technically, if the university evaluates that anybody's GPA or even the degree, the undergraduate degree, is not verified, the university will officially reject the application. However, we still see the application, okay? So if you fill out the MSW application and you have an opportunity in the personal statement to explain your circumstances and also complete that other part of the application, you will see an official rejection notice from the university. However, you can petition to request a special review. And what that petition looks like, it's a letter that you would write to the admissions committee and to me, explaining why you would like to have a conditional review. It is not a guarantee that the admissions committee will grant your request for a review, but you can always request it. So why some people might meet the exception and why the school may petition on the applicant's behalf to be reviewed is because some common circumstances would be somebody entered an undergraduate program, something catastrophic happened, all of their grades were failing grades, but it was either beyond their control or a life circumstance that happened so long ago, and they've learned from that. And then since that point, they have been able to try to elevate their GPA. And so sometimes we see situations either they've learned from life experience since that time, or it was circumstances beyond their control. And that's what they would explain in this request or this petition for the conditional review. So in that manner, you can also think about raising your GPA between the time that you have now and the time that you apply. So if you're applying this year, it's probably not that much time. But for those of you who are thinking about applying in the future or multiple years down the line, if you don't get in this time, they have actually raised their GPA by taking community college courses or other type of courses to try to elevate their GPA. If your GPA is way below the minimum, you have to do a cost benefit analysis of how many classes and how many A's you have to get in order to elevate your GPA to be at the minimum. But that's one of those possibilities that you could use. So I've given you two: raise your GPA if it's within your control to take extra classes, or think about the petition for a conditional review. Chigozi, does that help with your question?
Yes, it does. It does. So I can see that there are a kind of steps. Maybe if it's rejected, then it is then that you cannot apply for review, and the review has to be to MSW department, right? You're applying to review or to the school.
The admissions committee and to me as the director. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And the next alternative is okay. And now, if a person chooses the route of a community college, maybe the person goes there to take a couple of courses or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You and this is not just a Jagosi's question, but for other folks, if you're all interested in trying to get into an MSW program, not necessarily ours, we would recommend that you apply to multiple schools because some schools, they may have a different criteria minimum. Some schools are looking for different types of characteristics or background for students. And so, for all of you, give yourselves as much opportunity to get into an MSW program if you're not just set on coming here. That's what we realize.
Okay. So thank you very much. So now, about the review. So when you apply for the review, then of course the person has to wait and see. So maybe like in the review, you have to give circumstances, as you just said, why this and that happened. That probably you were not able to meet up or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, it's up to the review committee now to assess.
Yes.
If in the positive, they will let you know. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And not only for your question, but for other folks who ask similar questions, is that anything within your control. So remember, GPA is only one aspect. Anything you can do to increase your amount of experience, anything you can do to get the best recommendations that you can, and of course, do an outstanding personal statement, that's all going to also help you in addition to your GPA issue.
Oh, okay. I can see that both the personal statement, letters of recommendation, maybe for the professors, when you went to school and everything. So they'll help to. Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lee, there's a couple of questions. I'm wondering, Kudra, do you want to go first, and then I will cluster the other questions? Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sen. So for me, I do have a slightly lower GPA. I don't believe it's completely under the requirement, but it's kind of close. And for me, it's not either life circumstance or things that were out of my control. I come from a very interdisciplinary background, and in my undergrad, I chose to take some computer science and higher level maths courses just purely for my learning, knowing that it would probably lower my GPA. But if you look at my social classes and my neuro classes and my psych classes, those are all, those GPAs are, or those grades are B and above. So I'm wondering if that will also be taken into consideration.
So there's a couple of ways that you can approach this is that, first of all, don't even worry about how do I phrase this? You want to apply and then see what the Cal State Apply and the university review is first. They're not reviewing admission into the MSW program. They're just reviewing whether or not the applicant has made the minimum requirements to be qualified for the program. Okay. So if the university says, oh, this person has a high enough GPA, then you don't even have to worry about that, right? Because then you've passed that. But for those that are rejected by the university from the Cal State Apply application, it's either because they couldn't verify the undergraduate degree or because the GPA is too low. If one of those two things happen, similar to the previous question, you can still petition for a conditional review, and then you can explain why you think you would merit a conditional review, which you have actually explained, right? The reason why I took these courses and my GPA was this way is this way. However, the courses that are relevant to social work, I received high grades, and please consider me for review because of the strategy in which I approach my undergraduate education, something like that, right? You can even, so let's say that the application is not rejected by the university, the Cal State Apply one, then you still might want to weave into some type of explanation in your personal statement about how you answer the prompt, but also try to impress upon why you think your experience or your academic background is to an advantage of how it's enhancing your ability to be a professional social worker. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter, can I just chime in really quickly about, there was a question a little bit earlier on in the chat, And it says there was a mention on the slide deck that there was a listserv for interested applicants, but I was not able to access the link.
Is that the listserv for the online program?
Raquel, are you still here? Maybe Raquel left. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was going to ask, but I'm not sure. I was going to ask her, like, what did you think about that? So
yeah,
this could be on the online, the professional studies. They want information about the online program. CPG, yes, that's the only place where there is a listserv.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But
the CPG one, yes, there's no other listserv anyway. So I'll just cut and paste the link for anyone who wants to be on the
on the list.
Yeah.
For those of other of you who have found either broken links or you're just not sure or contradictory information, you can raise it to our attention because we want to make sure that our information is as accurate, consistent, and transparent as possible.
Yes.
So just let us know on that. Okay.
So there's a question from Anya. I'm actually not certain what you're asking, so that's why I'm kind of asking you directly. Your question is, do we apply through CalState Apply and directly through SJSU online portal? Not sure. We have to do both. So what I responded was there are two applications. One is CalState Apply, one is for the MSW application, and you have to do both. But I'm not sure if I understood your question. Are you still here, Anya?
Yes, I am. And yeah, you answered it. Because I was just confused if we just had to go through Cal State Apply. And then that would also get us in the supplemental application. But from my understanding that we do have to do both.
Yes, please. Yes. And then there have been a few questions about, is there support to review applications before the applications are submitted? And I had said no, right? We don't have that support in-house. You can ask other people or colleagues, maybe if you're in the field, that's the best way I can answer that question. And there was a question about a turnaround time, like by when would people know? There's a few, a cluster where people are asking by when they might know that they've been accepted in the program.
Okay, so let's do this. So we'll answer the question Dr. Sen just posed, and then we're going to take Kayleen's question.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have last words of advice from our colleagues, and then we're going to officially stop the recording. However, for those of you who would like to remain behind and also we'll skim through the chat as well, we will stay behind for a little bit to answer those questions, but we just want to honor the time commitment that people have made to officially end the meeting. Okay, so Dr. Sen, you're asking about the review time and when, okay. So as we had mentioned, application for Cal State Apply is open. It will remain as the deadline as December 1st. However, the MSW application, we're hoping to get that up and ready so that you can enter your material. If we are going to do an extension, we will place it on the website and let people know. But there is no extension to Cal State Apply. Then the faculty and the admissions team will review those applications. Usually it's during winter break, beginning part of spring. So the earliest decision notifications historically have come about in the beginning of February. However, we also say that decisions can come as late as the end of May. We do not use what's called rolling admissions, whereas other programs define rolling admissions is that it's first come, first serve if they're qualified. We don't quite do it that way because we want people to actually take the time to put together as good of an application as possible, as long as they meet the deadline. Then we're able to review our pool as a whole, so we understand who is interested in coming to our program. And then those that rank high, they probably will get a notification relatively earlier. But just because you don't get a notification sooner rather than later doesn't mean that you don't have a chance to be admitted. Okay, you have to realize that our pool of applications can be anywhere from 600 to 800 applications, and it does take us time to review that as thoroughly as possible. So again, earliest notifications have historically been beginning of February, but then notifications have also gone out as late as the end of May. So we're asking for some patience in there. Along that same guideline is that we know that sometimes other programs that folks are applying to give their decisions earlier than we do. Our strategy is that if you really want to come to San Jose State, you'll let us know, and we'll try to give you a decision as soon as possible. And most people will hang on and just say like, okay, still have a chance. I'm going to wait for SJSU. For those people who are wanting to think about SJSU as their second or third or fourth choice, if they're going to be admitted to their preferred school, they're probably going to go to their preferred school regardless of when we give the decision here. So we'll do the best we can in that regard. Okay. Kayleen, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, I had two questions regarding admission. The first question is, what are the admissions rates for in-person and online?
Okay, so we don't have a separate ratio for our in-person or online, because what we do is we look at the qualifications of the pool as a whole. So we want to take top ranked first, regardless of choice of program. Okay, so an example of this is that if we're in the middle somewhere of our rankings and we filled up, let's say, one of the programs, let's say we fill up on campus first. If we get an on-campus applicant who has put as second choice online, we're going to say, hey, we can't admit you into on-campus, but we have space in the online program. Would you like to go to that program? So that means we're taking best qualified first, regardless of program choice. So with that type of description in mind, it also depends on how many applicants that we get each year. But let me start with the baseline understanding of about 1 in 3 to 1 in 4. And it really depends on the year and the pool. So for example, in one year where our online program was brand new, we didn't know how many we were going to accept. And that year we also received 800 applications. Then the admissions ratio is much smaller, right? Because we had fewer spots and a lot more applications. However, especially during COVID times and economics and all that, the least number of applications we've received in a year is like 500. And if we're also expanding spaces, which we plan to do in our online program, so instead of admitting about 70, 75 students, we're hoping to admit 100 students in our online program. So if we get only 500 applications and we have more space in our program, then the ratio is much better, right, in that way. So I know that that's not maybe the exact answer that you were looking for, but trying to give you a picture. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I guess following that question is, what makes an applicant a strong candidate for the program and what ranks them higher than others?
Okay. Okay, so I'll try to answer that question in that, so we look holistically at 4 main things, right? So the 4 things are academic preparation, so that's usually GPA, right? How well they answer to the prompts and the writing quality and the personal statement, the strength of the recommendation forms. And so remember, we're not requiring traditional letters of recommendation. You have to make sure that you have your recommenders fill out our scored form, which also has a space for narrative comments, and then the amount of social work experience, okay? So my official answer to your question is that anybody who is able to do all 4 of those things at an excellent level will have a higher chance of getting admitted, right? Those people who have low GPA, no experience, poor recommendations, did not pay attention to the prompts, they're not going to get in, okay? But then you're probably thinking about, okay, but what about all the things in between, right? And so what we would say is anything that is within your control that you can elevate, do that, right? You have control over who you choose as a recommender, choose the best recommender, right? You have control over how you're going to write the personal statement. Talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, show other people, get ideas, right? Do that. Earn as high grades as you can while you're in school, and then accrue as much experience as you can, right? So what we're looking for is people who can have high scores in all 4. And then the other part of the answer is check out our mission statement and look at what we stand for and what type of curriculum we have, and we're looking for best match, really, in that way, right? And so you will never, and I think I said this in the recording, is that we will never say, or I will never say, that we're the best school of social work, because there is no such thing as the best school of social work. We really think that it is goodness of fit in that way. So every program will think of something different or emphasize something different, but we're hoping that if you choose to apply, that you understand what we do well, but also things that we don't do well, so that you understand what our strengths and weaknesses are and what we can offer. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so
that was a good question, Kayleen.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give my colleagues time to just give like a couple of phrases of last advice, and then we're going to officially close the recording and the meeting. And those of you who would like to stay behind, you can do so. Okay, so Dr. Chavez Bui, do you have any last words of advice?
Yeah, what I would say to you all is when writing the personal statement, follow the prompt, answer the question. Because I know sometimes we're so passionate, we want to like go off and talk about everything, but really answer the questions. And then similar to what Dr. Lee said a little bit earlier is, if you know social workers or other people that have been in the field, ask them to look over your personal statement and just see if you're on the right track. But that would be the biggest piece of advice. And good luck to all of you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Dr. Sen?
Yeah, I would follow up with what Dr. Bui had said, and follow the instructions, please, because we do get many, many, many applications. And what stands out to us is when we read things and it's an organized way and we're not having to scramble to find where the answers are. And so follow the directions, and there have been quite a few still questions that we were not able to answer, but they were all on our website. And so please do visit the website. Please do review the fabulous job that Dr. Lee and Dr. Thomas have done in giving you all the information. So, and all the best. And hopefully we'll see you here in our graduate program.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
Yeah, my advice is more practical and specific. So the first one I have is there are 2 applications, and I cannot emphasize this enough. There are 2 applications. You'll be surprised at the number of emails we get saying that they haven't heard anything back. And when we go and review the application, they have not submitted one of them. So there are 2 applications. That's important. The second one is when you do your SGSU MSW application, the application for the School of Social Work, please enter your 9-digit SGSU ID number correctly. It starts with a 0, it's 9 digits. That's an important bit of information. That's my second advice. And the third one, many of my other colleagues have spoken about it. Read all the instructions. Before you begin your application, go to the MSW website. Everything that has been asked here is actually mentioned there, including the video. We have videos on writing a good, strong personal statement. How do you submit the application on the MSW portal? Please review all of them, make notes, and prepare yourself before you actually start the application process. And I wish you nothing but the best. And like Dr. Sen said, I hope to see you here.
Thank you. My last words of advice are similar to what when Kayleen was asking her question, which is find out what type of program we offer, including all the logistics. So things like what type of program that you're entering, including the class schedule, your commitment to internship and class days, what type of choice that you have in classes, which quite frankly, you really don't have that much of a choice. Where the other programs offer you a whole array of electives and you pick and choose your times and your courses, and there's not enough resources for us to give that type of customizable option. So it's very regimented, but some people like regimented. We use a cohort-based system here for foundation year classes, where you take all the classes with the same group of people. Some people like that because it's support. Some people don't like that. They want to kind of do their own thing. The most types of visits that I get from students in my office are people who are so unhappy about when they get here and they say, I didn't know that I couldn't take classes, on this day, or how come I couldn't do internship, at my workplace on the weekends, or something. And so we are trying to be as transparent and informative as possible, and advising you to go find out about not just our program, but the other programs, and make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. We are okay in the sense of it's goodness of fit, right? We know that not everybody's going to find our MSW program the way that you want it. And that's okay. We want you, because you're making a huge investment in your money and your time, your effort, and all this. Just make sure that our university and our program, what we can offer, we do think we offer a quality program and many different types of choices, but also remember what you're committing to if you want to come here. With that being said, we're very excited about our MSW program. All the other programs, we're colleagues, okay? So I know what happens at the other universities as well. And we're all excited that you're interested in the social work profession, because we need social workers. And we want you to be able to match well and get into a program. If it's our program, we're very happy to have you. If it's somewhere else, we know that you're still going to be making a positive impact in our society and on people. With that being said, thank you so much on behalf of San Jose State University, our College of Health and Human Sciences, and our School of Social Work for spending your time with us today. I'm going to officially end the recording, and then for those of you who would like to stay behind, we'll be here for a few minutes. Thank you, everybody.